Now, before you begin to drift into a very deep state of relaxation and inner focus, I'm just going to say a little about dealing with your inner critic. Most of us learn that bullying, threatening, and verbally abusing the people around us is deeply wrong. But it's all too common for people to privately bully, threaten, and abuse themselves in their own minds. You may have noticed that you criticize yourself in all kinds of unpleasant, unhelpful ways and say things to yourself that you would never dream of saying to a friend, or even to someone who wasn't a friend. In my experience as a therapist, even apparently confident and successful people can incessantly criticize themselves in private and worry that they're not good enough, that they're going to be found out, or that they'll never make up for that mistake they made when they were 17 years old. There are various reasons why people develop an inner critic like this. We sometimes internalize criticism from our teachers and carers at an early age. People who told us unhelpful things using personal, absolute language like, "You'll never amount to anything," or "Why are you always such a no-good blah blah blah?" This type of abusive communication is all too easy to instinctively absorb when we're feeling threatened and vulnerable. Also, we humans evolved as a species over millions of years through very dangerous eras, where safety was never assured, and so, to preserve our lives, we learned to pay more attention to negative, fearful, threatening experiences than to positive ones. A study in 2007 found that we notice faces with fearful expressions on them much faster than happy or neutral ones. The psychologist John Gottman has also observed that for every negative interaction in a relationship, you need 5 positive ones to outweigh it, if the relationship is to be healthy. So if you've noticed that you dwell on unpleasant things more than on reminiscing about your successes, you're not alone. However, you can learn to tame this inner critic, to correct this negative bias, and it's simpler than you might think. As you are growing up, you've already learned how to tame many primal urges and instincts. For example, you've probably experienced getting angry at someone, and perhaps your heart started pumping harder. Perhaps you began breathing faster, and your face may have flushed as your body unconsciously prepared itself for a physical fight. But in spite of all that, you tamed that instinct. You walked away, or even made peace with that person. You've also probably had an urge to have just one more piece of cake, or to buy a new pair of shoes, or a gadget that you knew you shouldn't, and you tamed that instinct. You walked away. I'm not saying you've always exerted perfect self-control in your life, but there are many, many examples each day of how you rein in your instincts, rather than running around wildly through the streets like a cave dweller. So just because you feel an urge to be negative about yourself doesn't mean you have to allow it to happen. When you tame your own thinking and learn to talk to yourself in a calmer, fairer, more civilized way, you're using the same principles you've already learned for how to act in public and how to speak appropriately to other people, and applying them to your own mind. So this download is about learning to bring civilization to your mind so that you can treat yourself more fairly and feel a deeper, calmer sense of trust in yourself. So, if you haven't yet closed those eyes, you can do that right now as you take a slow, deep breath and let the air out smoothly and evenly, and simply begin to slow down, like slowing down any words in that mind, any thoughts about what I've been talking about, and any thoughts about other things can become calmer, slower, softer. Perhaps putting a bit of a yawn between each word, noticing the space and the silence around each thought. That's it. As you slow down the breathing in that body and let each out-breath be long and smooth. That's it. like a wonderfully relaxing sigh, so that instead of being caught up in a mental conversation, you reconnect with your body. You reconnect with your breathing. And here and now, you can just take another slow, deep breath and imagine closing those eyelids again as you drift deeper inside and notice that there is a you that is always here, always observing, a you that can watch thoughts with a calm detachment, a you who can watch that breathing with a calm detachment, noticing how the air tends to feel a little warmer when you breathe out, a little cooler when you breathe in. And when you take a step back from yourself and notice your experience like this, it creates a space and a time for that body to properly relax, for those shoulders to loosen, for those facial muscles to smooth out. That's it. As a calm stillness begins to imbue the air around you with peace and rest. The space all around that body, infused with calm and relaxation. The space within that mind, saturated with calm and relaxation, like ripples on a lake, now fading and vanishing into mirror-like stillness with each breath. Or like a clock that had been overwound, ticking excessively fast and erratically, that now slows right down into a calm, rhythmic tick and tock, and tick and tock, finding a relaxed, slow rhythm inside now. And as those arms begin to feel comfortably heavy, and those legs begin to feel comfortably heavy, and the more unconscious portion of that mind prepares to learn on an instinctive level. That's it. As that mind begins to drift and dream, to see for a moment the image of your own face relaxing even deeper, watching yourself relax all the way down into comfort, into a nurturing, safe kind of rest, fully absorbing experience of learning now to drift all the way down. That's it. Deeper and deeper still. And you know those times when that inner critic has tried to push you around in the past. The way those unhelpful thoughts have stolen your peace and contentment, distracted you from being able to think clearly and constructively, and tried to make you feel like you weren't good enough somehow, that there was something wrong with you. And you can just calmly notice the ways that inner critic has tried to steal your faith in yourself as you prepare to make a deep and lasting change inside now. And hundreds of years ago, alchemists dreamt of creating gold from metals like lead and copper, of transforming a base, unrefined metal into something of incredible worth and of incredible beauty. And deeper thinking alchemists knew that this quest was really symbolic rather than physical. It was not really about making actual physical gold, but about the symbolic transformation of the human soul, about transforming the base, wild, low-grade parts of one's being into something of worth and value and meaning, to transform your base instincts into gold. And whether you know it or not, you've turned many of your instincts into gold over your life. Perhaps you once felt angry and frustrated at a situation and turned that into a focused determination to change things. Perhaps you felt vulnerable and insecure and turned that into connection, into opening up to someone else, and no longer being an island. Perhaps you've experienced infatuation and desire and turned it into love and commitment. And in each of those times, you weren't pushing away the base emotions. You were gradually transforming them into something more valuable, channeling them for a higher purpose, just as a great artist turns their passions, their dreams, and their emotional wounds into works of art. Because taming a passion doesn't mean taking the life out of it. It means channeling it, refining it, turning it from lead into gold. And those brutish, bullying, loudmouth thoughts that in the past have been given free rein to barge their way about in your mind. Those unhelpful, insulting, overly personal, and overly generalized criticisms that highlighted your mistakes and then told you that you are no good as a person. Those thoughts are just part of a primal, untamed instinct which is waiting to be channeled. A potent source of energy waiting to be transformed from lead into gold. Because we all need to learn from our mistakes. And having a force within you, driving you to do better, to strive to improve and better yourself, can be a tremendously useful ally. And just as anger can become focused determination, so that inner voice of self-criticism can become a mature and kind, but firm and civilized voice that draws attention to your achievements and how you can still better yourself. And what would it be like right now for that evolution to take place? To watch and listen as that base, uncouth, wild inner critic who used to hurl abuse at you gradually evolves, just as your ancestors evolved, becoming more intelligent, more civilized, more respectful, and self-disciplined. As you hear that inner voice change now, to begin to speak in a calm, kind, but firm, respectful, and truthful way to you, acknowledging your strengths and the areas of your life you still need to work on. And you can just listen to that right now and notice as you watch and listen to that now, how having this new inner voice changes certain situations in your life. How does it feel to have succeeded at something? Maybe at work, maybe socially, and how this new voice allows you to feel genuinely proud of your achievements, and how it feels to have made a mistake, and hear how this voice speaks to you so kindly but firmly about how you can be sure to do better next time and commit to improving in the future. And when I was a boy, our family adopted a dog, and the volunteer rescue worker who brought the dog to our house said to us, "You'll not get to know the real dog for the first year. It takes that long for the dog to really realize that it's safe and settled and home. And bit by bit, over the coming year, you'll start to see more and more of the dog's personality shine through as she understands that things are okay now." And when you start to tame your mind and bring fairness and peace and civilization to your mind, so that all parts of you know that it's safe, it might feel unfamiliar at first, but bit by bit, day by day, you'll notice that inner security and safety, that trust in yourself, beginning to shine through everything you do. And should you ever hear an echo of those old, rude, bullying thoughts, they can sound so distant and remote, like the memory of an old pair of shoes from childhood that you've long since outgrown. And you can notice those old thoughts with a calm, indifferent detachment, knowing you've come such a long way since then. And you can listen to this session often and relax even more deeply each time that you do. And for now, you can begin to feel more alert and refreshed. And just prepare to come all the way back with a real sense of good feeling. Just noticing the position of your body and the sensation of whatever it is you're resting on. Perhaps becoming more aware of any sounds around. And then whenever you're ready, you can just have a nice stretch and open your eyes. Excellent.